Hey guys, I'm back. Happy Sunday to everybody. I wanted to come back on because, well, I had a bit of an epiphany, if you will. Thank you for all the comments on yesterday's video. I want to clarify some things and add some thoughts regarding my video yesterday. And when I say I have had an epiphany, it really occurred to me after seeing a lot of comments, also watching other people's videos on this subject, and seeing some of the pushback from collectors. I realized something that I didn't realize before. I mean, I sort of realized, but it really became clear to me after my video and after talking to some of my friends about the subject. So I'm going to talk about that while I'm going to put the sweater on, and you'll notice she's in the sleeveless onesie now instead of the long sleeve, but it's nice here, but it's going to cool off. So I'm going to put the bloomers back on with it and then put the sweater on with it so you guys can see this completed look, because I don't think I shared that with you guys. So I will do that as I kind of navigate through this conversation with you guys. So it occurred to me that there's a disconnect, a huge disconnect with newer collectors. And what makes a newer collector? It could be that someone's been here for a couple of years and is just very new still to collecting, or they may be brand new. I think the term a new collector can mean a varying amounts of time that someone's been in the hobby, but doesn't fully understand the history of our hobby, or doesn't have a full connection to understand the artist as a person with feelings. You know, when people are commenting about why they buy counterfeit, stolen, fake kits, whatever you want to call them, I use the term inauthentic because to me that's what they are. But the reasoning behind the thought of why collectors think it's okay to buy these counterfeit kits, inauthentic kits, I've heard a varying number of reasons to why they justify it. And I think part of why it's easier for someone to go ahead and purchase and support counterfeits is because they haven't been in the community long enough to understand where the community came from, how it was built up by our artists from a very small number of artists and collectors to start. So I want to share that because I think it matters, and understanding where this hobby originated from is really important for all collectors to understand. And I speak from watching it grow for many years. Like, I was part of the very early, Reborn community, if you want to call it that. It was so small and very unknown when I first started collecting more than 20 years ago. And I watched the evolution of the true Reborn art come to life. And very early on, nobody was sculpting a whole lot. A lot of artists, Reborn artists, were just taking Behringer dolls that were factory made from whatever company, stripping them and repainting them. Then soon after that, we started seeing true artists start sculpting actual kits. People look at it now like, oh, we have a plethora of kits and there's companies out there, Bountiful Baby, this one, that one, the other one's producing kits left and right. And they don't realize that it was not always like that. Our hobby has evolved from a very tiny, tiny, tiny group of artists to having a plethora of artwork to choose from to bring to life. And the disconnect that I'm seeing is that newer collectors don't see our artists as human beings. They see them as, oh, it's like Bountiful Baby. They have a factory that makes, these kits and they put them out, and they don't have a personal relationship with these artists. Whereas for those of us that have watched over many years the evolution of our Reborn hobby, we have a personal connection to all the artists. I used Bonnie Brown as an example yesterday in my video because she has been one of the biggest targets for copying. She's not the only one, but she has been the main target because her kits sell out and are so very sought after. Many people in this hobby don't know Bonnie as a person, and I do. And I see not just her, but all our artists as people that worked hard, that built their craft from the ground up. And I'm going to use Bonnie as an example again because I watched Bonnie grow from a very young woman when she first started sculpting and started sharing her sculpts. Before anybody knew who she was. She was part of our doll fan group. It was a forum that I mention a lot, which is still there, but it's different. It's not the same. There's not many people that actually visit that group anymore, which is a shame, but it's how we used to connect before Facebook was big, before Facebook was even around, then before YouTube was a thing, before Instagram existed. Like, we had doll forums. That's how we connected our small group of collectors with the new artists that were up and coming. And I watched Bonnie Brown start from a young woman, or I think she was even a minor. She was very young when she started sculpting. And I watched her cultivate her art. And I know her as a person. I respect her as a person. And I've watched her cultivate her craft, and she's become one of the most sought after sculptors out there. She creates the most amazing kits, sculpts. It's amazing. And there are many more artists out there doing the same thing that have literally started their sculpting business from the ground up, but they're real people. They're not big companies. So the financial means is not always there for being able to protect their work. And back when we first, were doing this, when they started sculpting and creating small kits for reproduction, there wasn't this push to copy, right? We didn't think ahead. We didn't realize that suddenly all these counterfeit companies would reproduce and copy and steal the work. We just didn't think about that at the time because it didn't happen until things got popular, and then the Reborn community grew, and then people started realizing that there's a huge market for this. There's a huge profitability, so to speak. And then the copying began. And yes, I am fully aware that copying happens in all aspects of life. I'm fully aware. I am fully aware that we can't keep that from happening as well. But I am also going to continue to point out that as a community, as a doll community, early on, we as collectors in our smaller community, before it blew up and there's so many people in it, we always stood behind our artists. Always. We rallied around them. When we saw wrongdoing, the Reborn community has always come together to protect our beloved artists. And it's important to me for people to understand that it's a big community, but we all should want the same goals in mind. We should want the artists to thrive, to continue producing, because the companies copying them, they're not sculptors. They're not going to bring us new, amazing kits. So if our artists stop sculpting, it's a big deal. It has a ripple effect to our community. It may not happen immediately, but it will happen eventually if it continues and collectors don't understand the impact of them supporting counterfeits and copies and fakes and inauthentic kits out there. So by me stating what I am, I'm just saying, I'm not trying to make anybody feel bad, because I'm also seeing that a lot of times what's happened and how collectors have ended up purchasing counterfeit kits is they didn't realize, they didn't understand, they didn't know. But I also am watching them understand and do their homework and start listening to a lot of us talking about it so that they prevent it from happening again in the future, which is great. That's my goal. Me putting out these videos, the goal and the intent is solely to help educate collectors so that they know where the pitfalls are. How do they learn to spot the fakes and counterfeits? I want them to be knowledgeable, and it takes a lot of research. You know, becoming an expert in anything you have an interest in is really important, and that's how I have tackled all of my hobbies, so to speak. You know, I do my homework, I research everything to the point of exhaustion at times, because I need to, as a person, it's just how I am. It's how I'm wired. I need to understand, and I need to know I'm making a good purchase, because I'm always seeking out authentic items, whether it be dolls, bags, shoes, you name it, jewelry. You know, I am looking for authentic and authentic only. And that's my, you know, that is me as a collector. It's not to say that it isn't someone's right to go out and purchase whatever they want. I don't have a say in other collectors in what they buy. And I'm never going to tell someone, you can't do this or you can't do that. That's just not me. I do, however, feel like if you are well educated and you still want to support counterfeits, you should understand the impact it may have down the road for you. And I think it's also the case of, you know, collectors saying, well, I can't afford, I've heard this over and over again, I can't afford the real kit. The true authentic kits aren't that expensive. Really, they're not. Artists don't charge enough for their kits, in my opinion. For their time, their effort, the energy they put into it, to make them, to reproduce them. They don't make that much off their kits. They just don't. So to say that you can't afford to save up for a kit, especially because a lot of them go on sale, like the older kits, you can buy older kits for cheap, guys. So using that excuse doesn't fly with me. I think that once you learn what's authentic, what's not, where to buy them, where to get them, and if you still choose to support counterfeits, I want people out there to understand this. One day down the road, you may decide to save up for that really amazing doll because you're like, look, I want a better doll. I'm going to save my money and I'm going to try to get, you know, the doll of my dreams. I understand not having enough money. Trust me, I've been there. But what happens when you do finally save up your money for an authentic doll, Reborn, and you paid a lot of money for that doll, but then you come to find out later on the doll's counterfeit? That's when it will personally affect a collector, whether they think it's fine or not. If you're financially affected, trust me, you'll have an opinion about this. And it happens a lot more than you would believe. So with Etsy, you've got Amazon, you've got Walmart, you've got all these big companies that you go, oh, well, they must be trustworthy. But they're just the supplier. They're basically the liaison to allow people to sell on their websites and through their websites. So that's not really coming from them. So they don't guarantee an authenticity. They're just literally a platform in which anybody can sell anything on. There's no protection there. So it's a must that you do your homework if you really want to stay away from buying anything that's inauthentic. But here's another thought that I want you guys to think about. My goals are never to make someone feel bad. I will never bully. I will never speak badly about. I will never be rude to somebody. I also will never seek out, I'm going to use the word troll. I won't troll someone's page. I won't troll someone's video. It's not my style. I don't do that, even though any of us speaking out about fakes and counterfeits are being deemed as reborn police, or trolls who are trolling and seeking out to make people feel bad about the dolls that are perhaps counterfeits. No. That part I want to clear up. I don't consider myself a reborn, doll police, anything. I'm here to educate. That's it. I'm allowed to have my beliefs. I'm allowed to have my opinions on what I feel are, true collectors. And it's not to make anybody else ever feel bullied, bad, feel like we're attacking them. No, I just put you guys in a different category and I choose not to support it. And that's my prerogative. And I have people that subscribe to my channel that have been duped. They've not knowingly purchased a counterfeit doll, and I don't make them feel bad. It's not their fault. They didn't know. But the things that do bother me are the people that I know that are out there, they're knowingly supporting counterfeits. That's where my problem arises. I will not support a channel or a collector who knowingly, outwardly understands what they're doing and proudly supports it and is quite rude about all of us who don't agree with it. Like, we all have our opinions. We all have our rights to our opinions. But supporting something that you know in the end will hurt the community bothers me. I can't do it. I love our artists. I know all of our artists. I've known them for a long time. I've watched them grow. And I know what the hard work that goes into them making their dolls and kits, babies, bringing them to life. So I can't support people and collectors that just disregard the impact they're having on our artists, especially when they're loud and proud about it. I just have a hard time with that because you're actually hurting a person. And it's my prerogative to do so, but you'll never hear me talk badly about another collector. It's their prerogative to do with the information what they choose to do. But I will continue to try to educate people so they understand maybe something they didn't understand before, and perhaps maybe start thinking a little differently about it. And it's a big business, our Reborn community. And it wasn't always like this, but it's become a very big business to all of those infiltrating and trying to copy. And I do believe in the power of standing up to them as a community. We're a large enough community where we can make a difference. I do believe that. I believe that there's enough of us collectors now. Our community is large enough where if we all say, no, we're not going to support the counterfeits, it would make a difference, because supply and demand, guys, it's the law of supply and demand. It really is. If we stop buying and we have, companies are making less and less because they don't have the demand for it, eventually they'll move on. I mean, there'll always be people copying, of course. But there'll be less of them infiltrating our hobby if we all just say, I don't support that. And when I say that people look at me because I have Monroe, she's a high-end silicone doll. People look at me as though I could possibly never understand what it's like to not afford to have the doll in the price range that I want to start out with. So I'm going to educate you guys. So most of you may not have followed me long enough to know that when I became a collector in this community, I was a single mom on a very tight budget, living on my own, supporting my family fully on one income. I didn't have 2 pennies to rub together to make anything happen when I first became a single parent. But I knew in time, if I saved my money, I could afford to have, one of these dolls. And at the time, dolls only cost, these Reborn Behringer dolls, they cost about $100. If I remember correctly, that was what I paid for my first doll. But I learned in time that with patience, which I'm not a patient person also, that I could save up and I could have the dolls and I could build my collection that way. So I haven't always had the best of the best. I haven't always had high end. I know what it's like to see others have these beautiful dolls and want them and want the instant gratification for those dolls and not be able to do it financially. I get it. And I also want to clarify, there's a lot of talk about Paradise Galleries, all of those produced dolls. We don't consider those are not counterfeit. Those are authentic dolls. They may not be reborn in the same way that some of our dolls are, but they're a great start. You know, Ashton Drake, Paradise Galleries, there's a whole gamut of produced dolls that are a very good start into the reborn world, into lifelike dolls, so to speak, that are a great investment, and they're very affordable. You know, there's a lot of avenues if you're still saving your money and you still want to have something in the interim and you don't want to support the counterfeit stolen kits. There are other avenues, and I don't think anybody in our reborn community has an issue with people, collectors, buying from those companies. The problem we have remains to be stolen counterfeit kits, stolen counterfeit sculpts. That's where the problem lies. That's what we don't want to support. Any other type of doll, shoot, I collect other types of dolls that are produced, but they're still authentic dolls. There's a difference. You have to understand what we're talking about, and terminology matters, and understanding when, you know, us channel creators go on and start talking about these things, learn the terminology that we're talking about so that you don't misunderstand or misinterpret what we're trying to say. I don't know a single other collector who's talking about this that considers the manufactured dolls to be part of this discussion. It's off the table. It's not, there's no anybody making anybody feel bad about buying a produced doll, a factory made doll. It's different. You just have to do your homework to understand what the differences are and what we're talking about. So that's why I keep saying, do your homework, do your homework, do your homework. I sound like a broken record, but it is pertinent. If you want to understand and be a part of the reborn community, doing your own research is really important. So you understand what's happening, you understand what we're talking about, and eventually it'll all click, it'll all make sense. And then people won't misconstrue what we're saying, because I feel like a lot of collectors out there don't understand that we're only talking about counterfeits. That's all the concern is. Counterfeit, stolen kits, stolen sculpts are the thing we're concerned with. Honestly. That's really what the bottom line is. And it will eventually trickle down. It'll affect us all. Maybe not now. And even the people saying there's nothing wrong with it, it will eventually affect you. Trust me. Trust me. It'll happen. And I don't wish that on anybody. I don't want anybody to be duped. I don't want anybody to mistakenly buy something they thought was one thing and they receive it and it's another. That happens all the time. I have friends left and right that have shared experiences where they purchased a doll and the picture said it was going to look like this, and they got literally a plastic doll that is something they purchased from Walmart or someplace like that. And that is devastating. To anybody that's happened to, it's devastating. And it's also why a lot of collectors come and go from our hobby, because they become discouraged because they get duped. They get their money taken. There are so many scammers out there, and the stolen sculpts and kits and things, that's just one aspect of it. The scammers and the scams happening in our community are vast and varying, and they're getting better and better at it. So you have to do your homework. Just like any type of hobby, anything you invest your money in, do your research, do your due diligence. It's very, very important so that you understand and you make a very safe and good purchase so you don't get taken to the cleaners, because I've seen it happen. Even with collectors that have been in the hobby for a period of time, it can happen to any of us. And I don't want that to happen to anybody. So hopefully, guys, I don't know if I've clarified my thoughts or if I've rambled on, whatever, I guess. I feel very strongly about it, and I just want people to understand and maybe understanding the history of our community. It helps maybe new collectors understand where a lot of us passionate, you know, seasoned collectors come from. And I don't think anybody really means to put anybody down. I think that some come across as very harsh, but I think their intentions are good. I would like to believe that everybody's intentions are good, and we just want to protect our artists. It really is what the Reborn community has always been known for, is we always protect one another. We try to protect our fellow collectors as well as our artists, because that's what makes, you know, it work. It's what makes artists thrive and continue to put out amazing work for us to enjoy. And without that, you know, we'll have less to enjoy, and that just makes me sad. I don't want to see that happen. So anyways, guys, here is Monroe. I love Jamie Kay. I really do. I love this brand. I have purchased more. I'm waiting for yet another order because I'm obsessed. I really think it's beautiful. Their clothing is really beautifully made, and the sizing is just awesome. It's perfect. And I love this look. It's not too overly like dressy, and it looks comfy for her, for a newborn. I just think it's like the perfect little outfit. And I have so many of these. Then with the new order coming in, I'll have even more to kind of mix and match, and the color palettes are just beautiful. So, yep, I'm hooked. It's happened, guys. I'm totally hooked. So you guys will see her in a lot more of these outfits. But I'm putting back together my nursery. I know I talked about this in a previous video that I'm, you know, finally got some finishing pieces to my nursery that I am working on. I've spent the last several days kind of cleaning out, sorting, and getting ready for the things that I'm finishing up my nursery, but I will share it with you guys. I will share a before, because I have some pictures of the before. For most people, you're not gonna notice a huge difference, because there's not like a huge change in there. It's just, you know, final touches. You know, those accessory pieces that bring it and tie it all together, you know. So once I have that done, guys, I know I don't ever do like a nursery tour, but I will be happy to do a nursery tour. So you guys can see my special space, because to me it is a very special space. It's my happy place, as I like to call it. So I'm really excited to be able to share that, because a lot of you have never even seen my nursery, because, you know, I shared it a long time ago, and I don't share it regularly. I don't even make a lot of videos in there at this point in time, because I like the lighting better in different areas of my home. And so I've been just trying different things, but I will definitely be embracing my new little nursery space. It's not new, but updated, so to speak. And then I'll share it with you guys, and you guys can give me your feedback on what you think of it. But here's little Monroe, looking ever so sweet. I love this baby so much. She's like the sweetest little thing. But yeah, she's all cozy, comfy, and she's ready for fall weather. So anyways, guys, I hope you have a great Sunday, and I hope you enjoyed the topic. And this is a long one, and I apologize for that, but I just thought it was important to talk about these things so that maybe people can understand where I'm coming from. So enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and Monroe and I will see you all soon. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye.